At 34, Jane Okafor had built something remarkable. 3 successful event planning companies across Lagos. The biggest one is in Victoria Island, another in Lekki, and the third in Ikeja. She planned weddings for politicians' daughters, birthday parties for oil executives, corporate events for banks and telecoms. Her name meant excellence. People paid premium prices because Jane delivered magic. She'd started with nothing. Her father died in a car accident when she was 15. Her mother sold tomatoes and peppers at Oshodi Market, barely making enough to feed 4 children. Jane was the eldest. While other girls her age were focused on fashion and boys, Jane was hustling. She sold recharge cards after school. She plaited hair on weekends. She did anything to bring money home. When she finished secondary school, university was impossible. No money. Instead, Jane became an apprentice to an event planner in Surulere. She worked for free for 2 years, learning everything. Then she started small, doing birthday parties for neighbors, charging 20,000 naira, then 50,000, then 100,000. By 25, she had her first office. By 29, she had 2 companies. By 32, 3 locations and a staff of 22 people. She was making serious money, millions every month. Jane bought a duplex in Ajah when she was 30. 4 bedrooms, a compound, a gate man. Her mother moved in immediately. So did her younger brother, Tony, who claimed to be starting an electronics business, but mostly slept until noon. Her younger sisters, Lillian and Blessing, lived nearby. Lillian's husband was a civil servant earning 80,000 naira monthly. Blessing's husband drove a taxi. The pattern was simple and suffocating. Jane paid for everything. Her mother's hospital bills, Tony's endless business plans that never worked, Lillian's 3 children in expensive private schools, 200,000 naira per term each, Blessing's rent because her husband's taxi money wasn't enough. Every month, over 500,000 naira flowed from Jane's accounts into her family's needs. At first, Jane didn't mind. This was African culture. You take care of your family. You don't abandon your people. But then the men started appearing in her life, and everything changed. The first was Tunde, an architect she met at a wedding she planned. He was intelligent, well-spoken, and had his own consulting firm. After 5 months, she invited him for Sunday lunch. Her mother served him rice without enough stew, then claimed she didn't cook much because they didn't know he was coming, even though Jane had told her 3 times. Tony spent the entire meal asking Tunde how much architects earned, whether he could help Tony get construction contracts, whether he owned his car or leased it. Tunde left early, visibly uncomfortable. He ended things 2 weeks later, saying her family was too intense. Then came Chukuma, a banker with Zenith Bank, ambitious, kind, respectful. Lillian somehow got his number and sent him WhatsApp messages from a fake account, claiming to be Jane's ex-boyfriend, saying Jane was still seeing him, sending old photos she'd stolen from Jane's phone. Chukuma confronted Jane at her office. She was completely confused. By the time she traced the number to her sister, Chukuma had blocked her everywhere. After him was Ifenyi, who owned a logistics company, patient, mature, steady. After 4 months of dating, Tony asked Ifenyi to borrow his Lexus for an important meeting. He returned it 3 days later with an empty tank and a scratch on the side. When Ifenyi asked about it, Tony accused him of being stingy and materialistic, caring more about his car than family. Jane's mother supported Tony. Ifenyi stopped calling. The pattern became undeniable. Every man Jane brought home, her family destroyed. But when she confronted them, they had their stories ready. "We're protecting you, sister. That one is not serious. He only wants your money. You should focus on your business." What they never admitted was the truth. Lillian's children's school fees, Blessing's rent, Tony's lifestyle, her mother's comfort. If Jane married, if she started her own family, the money would stop, the support would end, their comfortable lives would collapse. But Jane couldn't see it yet. She thought maybe they were right. Maybe these men had hidden problems. Maybe marriage wasn't for her. 3 more years passed like this. She dated. Every relationship crumbled. She grew exhausted. Some nights she sat in Victoria Island office after events, surrounded by deflated balloons and leftover decorations, wondering if she would die alone. Then she met Kunle at an industry conference in Abuja. He owned a catering company that operated across Nigeria. Yoruba man, sharp, well-traveled, educated abroad. He was presenting on scaling food businesses. Jane found his presentation brilliant. They talked for hours after his session. He was different. He asked real questions. He wanted to understand her journey, her challenges, her dreams beyond money. They exchanged numbers. For 8 months, they dated carefully. Kunle flew to Lagos. Jane flew to Abuja, where his main office was. They video called every night. He met her for lunch, dinner, at public events. She wasn't ready to bring him home. But eventually, Kunle said they needed to move forward. If they were building something real, he needed to meet her family. It was the proper thing to do. Jane agreed, her stomach tight with anxiety. She brought him home on a Saturday afternoon. Her mother was in the parlor watching a Nollywood movie. She glanced at Kunle once and looked back at the TV. No greeting, no smile. Kunle stood there holding a gift basket with premium wine and imported biscuits. Her mother didn't acknowledge it. Tony came out from his room, shook Kunle's hand with unnecessary aggression, and started his interrogation. How much did the catering business make yearly? Did Kunle own his house in Abuja, or was he renting? What were his intentions with Jane? The questions were hostile, invasive. After 35 minutes of thick silence and uncomfortable tension, Kunle suggested they leave. In the car, Jane waited for him to say it was over, that her family was too much. Instead, Kunle said something that changed everything. They're afraid of losing their meal ticket. Jane looked at him shocked. Your family, Kunle said calmly, driving through Aja traffic, your family have built their entire lives on your back. If you marry me, if you have children, that money stops flowing to them. They're not protecting you from bad men, they're protecting their bank account. Jane's eyes filled with tears. No man had ever understood before. No man had ever stayed long enough to see the truth. But her family intensified their attacks. Tony started calling Kunle late at night, claiming emergencies, asking for business loans, demanding that Kunle give him catering contracts for his events business that didn't exist. Blessing invited them to her daughter's birthday party and had her friend Monica there, wearing a tight dress, laughing too loudly at Kunle's jokes, touching his arm constantly, asking his number to discuss business opportunities. When that didn't work, Lillian sent Kunle messages from a fake number, claiming Jane had medical issues, that she couldn't have children, that she was hiding serious health problems. Kunle showed Jane everything, every manipulation attempt, every lie, every scheme. "Why are you still here?" Jane asked him one evening, sitting in his car outside her office, exhausted and broken. Kunle said, "Because I love you, because you deserve freedom, because I see exactly what they're doing, and I'm not going anywhere." Jane wanted to believe him, but fear held her paralyzed. Then, one Thursday afternoon, everything shattered. Jane drove to her house in Aja to drop off money for her mother's medical checkup. She used her key to enter through the kitchen door because the front gate was locked. She heard voices in the dining room. Her mother, Lillian, and Blessing were talking. She heard Lillian's voice first. "We need to do something more serious. What if I tell Kunle that Jane is in debt, that she borrowed money from those Ajo people?" "Too risky," Blessing replied. "He might investigate. What if we just tell Jane to choose, us or him?" She won't choose him over her own family, her mother said confidently. No proper ego daughter would. Then Lillian said the words that destroyed Jane's world. We have to make sure she never marries anybody. How else will I keep my children in Greenwood Academy? How else will my family survive? Jane's money is our money. She's the firstborn. It's her responsibility. Blessing agreed quickly. Exactly. Without Jane's help, my husband's taxi money cannot feed us. She owes this to us. We're family. Jane's mother was quiet for a long moment. Then she spoke. Jane is a good girl. She knows her duty. She understands family responsibility. We'll find a way to keep things exactly as they are. That Kunle man will disappear like the others. Jane stood in the kitchen, frozen, her vision blurred. These were the people she had worked 18-hour days for, the people she had sacrificed her youth for, delayed her own happiness for, built her entire life around, and they were actively plotting to trap her, to keep her alone. Grace wailed. "What kind of auntie are you?" Blessing just cried loudly, rocking her children. Jane's mother finally spoke, her voice cold. "If you marry this man and leave this house, don't ever come back. You will be dead to me." Jane looked at them calmly, her hand in Kunle's. "I'm already married. I love you all, but I will not continue paying for your entire lives. You need to stand on your own feet. I'll help in real emergencies, but I'm done being your ATM machine." She walked out with Kunle, her boxes in his car. Her family stood in the compound watching, shocked that she'd actually chosen herself. The following months were warfare. Text messages cursing her, voice notes calling her ungrateful, relatives phoning to guilt-trip her about abandoning her family. Her mother told people in the market that Jane had joined a cult and married a ritualist. But Jane had Kunle, and for the first time in her life, she had peace. Slowly, she rebuilt herself. She and Kunle traveled to Dubai, to South Africa, places she'd never had time to see. She opened a fourth event company, this time making decisions based on her vision, not her family's demands. They talked about children, maybe 2, maybe 3. Whatever they decided, it would be their decision. Her family eventually adjusted to reality. Tony finally got a real job selling electronics at Computer Village. Grace moved her children to a more affordable school. Blessing's husband bought a second taxi and started making better money. Jane's mother moved to a smaller flat she could manage. They all survived without Jane's constant support. Years later, they saw each other at family weddings and funerals. The conversations were brief, polite, surface level. The closeness was gone forever. They had killed it with their greed. Sometimes Jane felt a small sadness about it, but mostly she felt something she'd never experienced in her entire life. Freedom. The freedom to live for herself. The freedom to be loved without conditions. The freedom to build her own family. The freedom to finally breathe. And that was worth everything she'd lost.